Welcome to HortTube. My name is Jim Putnam. This is the Sunday gardening question and answer video that I have been doing for a while now. The first Sunday of every month I do the Subscriber Sunday, where subscribers send in photos that I include in that video, and then the rest of the month I'm doing these question and answer videos. You can ask questions down at the bottom, and I will go through them each week, and I try to get, like I say, I try to get questions that I think are most relevant to the most people. And anyway, thanks everyone for participating in that. I got some good questions this week I'll get to in just a minute. A couple channel related things. Thank you guys for using the links, the Amazon links that I have in the bottom of the videos. There's a little products I use link down at the bottom. If you're going and purchasing things from Amazon through those links, then I get a small percentage of those sales. I really appreciate that. That money just goes right back into the channel. So it's helpful for the health of the channel. So thanks again for using those links. I've talked about I'm doing some speaking and question and answer type appearances at some garden centers in the fall. That's starting to come together. I know that September 28th, the last weekend in September, I'm doing North Carolina stuff. And so I know that on the 28th, I'm in Raleigh at Logan's Trading Company in the morning. I don't know the exact time yet, but I'll let you know when I do. That's a Saturday, the 28th. On the 29th, I'm in the Charlotte area. I haven't nailed that one down yet. That first weekend of October, on Friday, October 4th, I'm at Wingard's in Lexington, South Carolina. I'm looking forward to seeing their place. I haven't been there. I understand it's a really, really nice garden center. So I look forward to being there. That'll be in the morning on the 4th. I'll tell you the exact times when I know them. And then on the 5th, on that Saturday, I'm back at the Family Tree in Snellville, Georgia. I was there in the spring. Really, really nice garden center in Snellville, Georgia. So like I say, I'll be there on October 5th. And I'll let you know as the times and the details. But they're definitely mornings. Doing North Carolina the last weekend in September, and then South Carolina and Georgia the first weekend in October. Okay, let's get to some questions from this week. I had some good ones. Somebody asked a question about their gardenia not blooming as well as it had the year before. They had put some fertilizer on it. I don't remember the exact question, maybe some plant tone or something like that, because it had some yellow leaves. And I can tell you that those yellow leaves on gardenias are from it being too dry. And so sometimes late in the spring, what happens with gardenias is they start to put on their new growth and their flower buds at the exact same time. They bloom on new growth, and they have to put out a lot of energy. And so what happened was, this person was in Raleigh near me, so I know what the weather was like. It was really, really wet through the fall and winter, and then it got super dry right at the beginning of spring, right when this thing would have needed water. And so that was what the yellow leaves were telling you, was it was dry. Unfortunately, a lot of times by the time you see the yellow leaves, it's already rained, or the wet soil has corrected itself, because that can lag behind it when it was actually dry. But I would imagine that at the moment that it needed water to put on new growth and put on flower buds, it just didn't have it. So it was a stress situation. I would imagine it would be fine. You can do a little pruning on it if it's a little thin, if you want to, especially coming out of next winter. You could do a small amount of pruning on it, but make sure on gardenias, that's another thing. I have videos for this week. I forgot. Tomorrow, I am actually putting up a watering video, how to water shrubs and trees. I'm excited about this video. Please share it if it's good, if you get something out of it. Tuesday will be the propagation video, but I've been working on this watering video for a while. But hopefully this watering video will help with what I'm talking about right now, which is, sometimes even established plants could use some additional water at the moment that they're doing their big thing for the year. Like azaleas at the time they're blooming, or whatever. The plant at the moment that plant's doing the thing that you bought it for and you planted it for. It could use some additional water. So that's in that video tomorrow. Okay, somebody asked about what fertilizer to put on tomatoes, and I'm a big fan of growing tomatoes very slowly. I know some people's tomatoes in my area are burned out already. They push them, and mine are just starting to produce a good amount of fruit. So I go very, very slow on my tomatoes. I find that I get less insect problems, I get less disease problems, I get less summer burnout problems on them. And so I just you can use tomato tone, or you know, just a small amount of organic fertilizer. They ask about using manure because people use manure, chicken manure. Chicken manure has a lot of nitrogen in it, and it will push them very fast. I'm not opposed to using it, but I wouldn't use it every time. I would rotate back and forth. I'm also just throwing this out there. I'm always a little nervous about using manure-based products because they do contain metals. You know, the animal is pooping out all the metals that are in the food. They just pass through them, and they can consolidate in, you know, in manure products. And so I don't mind using them some. I mean, obviously the whole world gets pooped on by animals constantly. So you know, but if you're concentrating it in the same spot over and over and over again, you can build up metals in the soil over time. It's just something that makes me nervous. So I'm fine with you using chicken manure, but like I say, rotate other things in so you're not just potentially building up some sort of issue in the soil where you're going to build up heavy metals or something like that that could end up in your food. So keep that in mind. Somebody asked about privacy plants in zone 6A, and this is kind of funny because that's about where, like, all of the things that I would recommend in my area for privacy screening plants for zone 7B where I'm at, 6A would probably be the spot where none of them would work. You know, where it's a little bit too cold, where you couldn't put those plants out in open space. That would be things like upright hollies, you know, ligustrum, evergreen viburnums, blue ice cypress, and, you know, lots and lots of plants that are like they're listed for zone 6, but really at 6A out on the edge of a property, they're probably going to get damaged. So up in 6A though, you can really, green giant arborvitae, if you have big space to put them, are probably would be happier than they would be in my area, and other arborvitae too, like emerald. DeGroots is my favorite. I've got a video on this channel for DeGroots arborvitae. It's an upright narrow one. I think you know, it's a little hot in our area, and they can take some summer stress, but where you are, it'd be a great choice. Don't discount using deciduous plants as screening plants. You won't be able to see it in this, but I actually have burning bush as a screen right here from the road, and it works fantastic. Even in the winter, there's enough stems on those that it does an adequate job of screening, and you can't kill them. So burning bush, what else? Up there, elderberry would work, forsythia would work. So it's a deciduous plant. It's going to lose its leaves in the winter, but they have so many canes and they're so thick that frequently they make a good screen anyway, and you can't kill them. So, you know, those can be a good choice. Somebody asked me about 9-bark not blooming, and they were in zone 7. 9-bark is, okay, here's all the reasons that 9-bark blooms on old growth, meaning the flower buds are on it in the fall going into winter. So here's all the reasons that 9-bark wouldn't bloom. Number one, it got damaged or pruned in the wintertime. So the flower buds were just eliminated. Number two would be it was in too much shade. It's definitely a plant that likes the sun, but if you still have the good color on the leaves, then it probably is getting enough sun. The third and most likely thing in this scenario is that it's in zone 7. 9-bark is a zone 2 to 7 plant, same as most lilacs are in that 2 to 7 range. Once you get into 7, our heat stress probably in the summer prevented them from setting buds. So the foliage is doing fine, but you know, right when they're needing that little bit of energy in the fall or late summer, they're getting some heat stress at that time. So that's what I imagine it is. And you may still enjoy the plant. The plant, you know, there's some varieties that have the black or dark foliage colored 9-bark. They're beautiful plants with or without the flowers, but in zone 7, it's kind of tough for them. We don't even have nurseries here really that grow them in my area. Zone 7 out west, maybe someplace where it doesn't get as hot during the summer, would be the reason they're actually listed for zone 7 and not so much for, you know, North and South Carolina. Okay, what else do we have on here? Somebody asked if the reason their crepe myrtle doesn't bloom is because it's in too much shade. If you even have to ask that question, then yes, for sure. They don't like shade at all. They're definitely opposed to it, and they'll stretch out, and they're just not great plants at all. If they haven't been in the ground that long, I would try to get them moved. That's a plant that you can cut it in half and dig it out and only get half the roots and transplant it, and it probably would be okay. I mean, they're really, really tough, but they need to go into it. They need more than a half a day sun. The more the better, and midday sun even better. What else? Somebody asked about growing white wedding hydrangeas in zone 10B. I don't think that's going to be a workout. I think zone 9 is about as far south as we're going to be able to go. They do need some winter. There are a lot of deciduous plants, especially, that need some winter sleep, some period of time where they go dormant, and I don't even think they go dormant in 10B. Somebody asked me my opinion about smoke bush. I love growing purple smoke bush. Had one in this yard in my original landscaping here that was really, really beautiful. They get big, and so keep that in mind. It's not a plant that you're going to put on a corner, put on a corner someplace and keep it 6 feet forever. It's a plant that you're going to need to allow it to get big. But they are beautiful. They do require quite a bit of sunlight, and then sometimes in the summer they can burn out a little bit and look a little bit rough. By mid to late summer, but great plant. I do love purple smoke bush. Definitely. Somebody asked me about their hosta, missing leaves, but they don't have deer. That's either rabbits or even worse, could be voles. Voles are underground field mice that if you've never had them, people that have had them would just cringed as soon as I said the word vole. Voles tend to use mole tunnels. Moles, create the little tunnels and eat the grubs out of your lawn, and voles can use their little network of tunnels and get from your plant to plant. Voles actually damage your plants. Moles eat insects, for grubs, and that kind of thing. So, I've seen hosta disappear one piece at a time, from underground via voles. So I hope that's not your issue, but it's within the realm of possibility. And then the last one I will do today, well, actually, hold on, I'll do two more. One, somebody asked me why they can't find petunias after May. If you're in the southeast, I couldn't give petunias away after mid-May when I had my garden center. They look really, really rough in small containers very quickly when it gets hot like this. They need some root space, and it's hard as a garden center or a nursery to keep petunias in small pots waiting for customers to come. When it's really, really hot outside, they still root so aggressively into those little pots, and they just look rough. They're not, they'd have them if they could keep them looking better in a container on a 90-some degree day. And petunias in the southeast are, not my favorite. I don't typically use petunias as annuals in our area. I know there are some new ones, and I haven't really tried, but in the southeast United States, it can be a little bit tough for petunias. Let's see. The last one is somebody had a tree struck by lightning, and then now their shade plants are going to be in the sun. This is one of those. This is kind of a funny thing, because occasionally I'll see a landscape go in where the landscape architect has designed trees and plants based on what it's going to look like in 20 years. Like they put in these maples that are only 10 foot tall, but then they put in mahonias, which are shade plants, in between them. Like somehow that tree was already, 50 feet tall, and that unfortunately, then you watch the mahonia die in the sun, while it waits for that tree to grow. That's not going to work very well. Unfortunately, these are those changing events that sometimes allow us to readdress. I would take it as an exciting event. Wait till next spring. I said something about having azaleas in that space. Azaleas are pretty adaptable if they're established. There are azaleas that grow in absolute full-on sun if they're older established plants. So I would give it time, see which ones of the plants are suffering. In terms of going back in there with a tree, do not put in a fast-growing tree. That was part of the question. The faster a tree grows, the sooner it dies. Okay, so any fast-growing tree, Bradford pears come right to the top of the list. There's 1,000 reasons not to grow Bradford pears, but the main one really is its short lifespan. They can get 30 feet tall really, really quickly with just about like a decade, and would offer some shade to you pretty quick, but then they just start falling apart in ice and wind and that kind of thing. So keep that in mind. If I told you, lots of fast-growing trees that would also be short-lived. So I would go back and pick an oak. Oaks are my favorite for shade, and maybe even one that's native, to the eastern United States, and do that. I don't like maples. Lots of people love red maples, but the roots are pretty nasty to garden with. and they have some other issues as well, especially in smaller lots, because when the roots reach sidewalks and the foundation and that kind of thing, the tree really starts to struggle if it doesn't have areas to push roots out into. So if it were me, I'd come back in with an oak and get the biggest one you can afford, and just be patient with it and assume that you're going to have to adapt some things in that bed to the new conditions. So thank you very much for watching this video. I think we'll have one more of these question and answer videos, and then 2 weeks from now would be the subscriber Sunday video. Thanks again for watching.